few things since last time. One of the more visual ones is that the Caprail is now essentially finished, which I elected not to do the ultra traditional thing with the Caprail, which is to make mortises on the underside of the Caprail that meet tenons on the top of the stanchions, and that's how they are mechanically fastened to the whole system. I elected not to do that, largely because I think that doing it this way is actually quite a lot stronger. It means that your Caprail is quite a bit bigger, but I don't mind that at all. I actually quite like that. Basically what you do is you have the bulwark planking coming up the outside, and you have a stringer running on the inside of the stanchions, and the Caprail is just fastened to both of these, which essentially turns the top part of the bulwarks into a truss, which is very, very strong, and I feel very, very good about. This is all American white oak from all sorts of places. There are a couple of technical challenges with this. One of the larger ones is making sure that the actual shear of the boat is followed with this very heavy piece of timber, and that it's the same on both sides. And what I did was made this thing, which is just a couple of little caster wheels attached to a post and a hull for Sharpie. So this just went on top of, it actually went on top of this piece because this piece was not here yet. Went on top of the lower part of the rub strake and just ran down that because I knew that that was a fair curve and that it was visually the shear of the boat. It's probably a little bit off of the actual shear of the boat as defined by the deck, just because the deck and the rub strake are not exactly the same thing. But it's definitely close enough, and it's definitely the same both sides. So the line that I got from this allowed me to trim with a circular saw the top of the bulwarks and the stanchions to make it all run really nicely so that I had a good surface for laying this down. This is all relatively straight stock, so had to come out of wider pieces, but I had some butt stock that had the flare at the roots that allowed me to get hooks like this into this scarf, which is good. So, and all of the fasteners for this were very, very kindly donated by a fellow named Thad. Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. Literally.
Thank you, Thad.
So this is the bowsprit. This is one of the spars that actually came with the boat. I've had to modify it pretty extensively for it to be right for the new old rig, but I think it's come together pretty well. It's, I think, about 25 feet long. I don't have that figure off the top of my head. 20 feet of that is outboard. So actually it's probably more like 23, 24. It's Douglas fir. Rosalind was set up as a gaffer with a lot of headsails. Like a lot of it had like 3 or 4 headsails. I forget how many there were. But for each headsail there was a collar, which meant that the bowsprit stepped down at each point. So it was very, very skinny at the end, which for my single headsail is not good. So I had to cut the end off a bit counterintuitively and scarf on a whole new solid bit to bring the diameter up, basically. This foots to these 2 Purple Heart bits over here, which go all the way down to what's called a bit bridge, which is fastened into the heels of the frames. And then it goes out through a hole over there, which was kind of interesting to make. I had to hog most of it out with a carbide wheel on an angle grinder, and then once it was close, which actually I'm skipping a step, I had to make a tool to scribe what to cut with the angle grinder, and then I had to make another tool to true up the very rough hole that I'd made. But it came out really, really well. I'm very happy with it. The whisker stays for this, which I'm not sure if whisker stay is the right term. I've been told before that it's not. Could also be sprit shrouds, I think. I don't know. I call them whisker stays. I think it makes enough sense to people that it's fine. If somebody out there knows of a better term, please let me know. They are actually hanging down here at the moment because they're not in use. And so this is where some modern technology really comes in handy. This is actually a fiber known as Dyneema, which is extruded high-density polyethylene. It's incredibly, incredibly strong. It's actually very much stronger than steel of comparable weight. I think something ridiculous like 2 bits of this could pick up this entire boat. Like, it's mad how strong this stuff is. I've elected to use this rather than galvanized wire for a couple of reasons. One is saving of weight, which is huge. It's so much lighter than galvanized wire. It's also non-conductive, which when you're at sea and lightning is potentially a risk is nice. Not so much with whisker stays, but with other parts of the rigging that actually go up. That's a consideration. But because this is a traditional boat, elected to traditionally parcel and serve this Dyneema. So what you see is actually nylon centwine, which is very, very tightly served over a parceling of friction tape or hockey tape, actually. All of this then gets painted with an exterior grade black paint. Of course, back in the day, they would have used tar. Tar doesn't agree with synthetic materials quite so well, so we just paint it. All of this makes the fiber in the core waterproof, which is good. Good for its longevity and its strength. As I understand it, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but as I understand it, the way that Dyneema actually fails under tension, it doesn't actually break, it actually cuts itself. And this, because of the way that the fibers overlap, they actually act, that when they become very, very, very tight, they almost become a pair of scissors and they end up cutting themselves.
It takes a long time.
It takes a long time, but if it's cold and the fiber is wet, it can potentially freeze, and that speeds up that process by quite a bit. So keeping the fiber dry is a good thing.
Just having a look at this thimble. Having a look at these seasonings and the quality of the serving. It's great.
Now, I'm not very good at this. I don't do this very often, but I think this all turned out fairly well. I actually only did this bit. The rest of it was done by my dear friend Don Hemenitz. Thank you again, Don, so much. He is much, much better at this than I have to say. Most of the fiendishly complicated elements of the sliding hatch are resolved now, and it's a little bit finicky because I haven't actually added the side pieces yet that stop it from being able to rack, so it can stop itself still, but once you get it going, it's not bad. So this is a little bit of plywood, some white oak, and some fiberglass. Very, very strong hatch, and some actually the tabs, the bronze tabs that run in these grooves that actually keep the whole thing attached are reclaimed chain plates from a boat that I did a bunch of salvage on. So that's kind of interesting. And yeah, it's all going pretty well. I haven't made the drop boards yet. I haven't made the side pieces yet, like I said, but it's pretty much done. So I decided to have this hatch tower thing open to starboard, largely because I didn't want it opening towards the existing companionway. That would make this area a little bit crowded, I think. So, not that I actually anticipate using this as a hatch very often. It's mostly there to give me standing headroom and light, if I'm being honest, but having an additional egress point is good. So this is actually going to get this butterfly hatch will be mounted to it. So this, my dear friend Dane gave me this. It's definitely seen better days. I had to do a bunch of repair work to it. Had to scarf on some new bits and clear up a bunch of rotten areas, and I've got a bunch of holes that I got to plug, and of course I have to make the actual panes that go on the top. But it's a start, and I quite like how the stainless gutter is, as opposed to routing gutters in a piece of wood. It seems quite sturdy and quite nice to me, so I thought I'd use it. Also fairly new is all of the portlights that are within the coach roof are all in. They have come from a couple of different places. The 6 that run down the side actually came from a local, like, nautical consignment type place, and were very kindly sponsored by my friend Matt. Thank you, Matt. This one and that one actually came with the boat. And then these 2 non-opening oval ones came to me by way of my old boss on Mayflower 2, Peter Aronston. Thank you again, Peter. He salvaged them off of something. I have 4 of them, anyway. I'm putting the other 2 back in the hatch tower back aft. I'm really pleased with how they came out. I 3D printed a router jig for cutting the holes, which made perfectly circular holes, which was great. And then bedded all these down with actually a total boat product called Seal, which they were kind enough to provide me with. Thank you again. I have not used it before, but I like how it feels. It stays quite, like, not too soft, but soft enough. It doesn't, like, really harden, which I think for something in this context is good. Obviously I have a little bit more of it to clean up around these ones, but I haven't done that yet, so.
In the past, have you used butyl tape, or like how would you compare it to butyl tape? Because some people think that's the standard.
I've actually never used butyl tape.
Oh, okay. No worries. But it doesn't dry. It doesn't.
In the past, I've used like I'm actually not sure what this tugboat seal actually is chemically. It's possible that it is also polysulfide. I've used polysulfide for this kind of thing before, and polyurethane for this kind of thing before. Polyurethane is grippier, polysulfide is easier to remove. Yeah. I've also made and installed these, which are, I don't actually know what they're called. I guess I would call them a chalk? Question mark. So they do a couple of things. One is they act as a fair lead for mooring lines that can go out this way. Two, this one is going to have a saddle carved in it, and this is actually where the boomkin crosses the rail, so that's reinforced. This is a nice big solid chunk of wood. This one is where I'm going to actually mount an oarlock for sculling. So that's also reinforced. And that's bolted through the whole Caprail system, so it's very, very strong. And I actually don't know what species this is. It's something from South America. Don't know what. But nice, solid stuff. The boomkin is actually foots too.
Oh.
So it comes down here, and the foot of it goes right there.
Oh, okay.
So the matter of interest. That's big.
So that's a very important piece of wood now.
Yeah. Big chunk of live oak. But I'm waiting to fasten it down because I have questions which will hopefully be answered on Monday at the Ludwig Forum. We shall see. No, don't film that. That's coming off.
Oh.
Ooh, not that bit.
Oh.
It chipped out there.
Not that one.
I don't like that.
Sorry.
You can't film that bit.